the Republic of Palau. Located more than 4,000 miles to the west of Hawaii and between Guam, the Philippines, and New Guinea. Far from the large centers of population, the islands of Palau mix their white sand beaches with a touch of civilization. We are heading to the capital island of Koror, where we will meet with one of the local dive guides and plan our 2-week stay. The morning of our second day brings great anticipation as we begin exploring and diving this tropical paradise. The islands of Palau are made up of 2 geological formations. The largest islands were formed by volcanic activity, while the smaller islands are formed from limestone that has been uplifted from the ocean. These are the rock islands and were originally an ancient reef system. The rock islands' lofty appearance and undercut shoreline are the result of millions of years of rain and seawater dissolving and wearing at the porous limestone. In some cases, the center of the islands have dissolved away, leaving unique marine lakes that are fed from the surrounding ocean through tunnels and porous rock. The most obvious souvenirs of Palau's recent past are the World War II relics left by the Japanese occupying forces and the liberating Allies. The Japanese were well dug in during the war, as these buried tanks and gun emplacements suggest. Although Palau has many of the conveniences of civilization, there are still vestiges of a more simple lifestyle found through the interior of Babaladab and some of the more remote inhabited islands. The striking beauty of these lush tropical islands is evident throughout the grounds of the Nico Palau Hotel where we are staying. The beauty of the islands is often hypnotic and makes us forget the real goal of our visit to Palau. We have come to meet one of the foremost dive guides in Palau and explore the extraordinary beauty of the reef systems surrounding these islands. Join us now as we join Surangel under the Palauan Sea. The reefs of Palau are among the richest and most diverse found. Much of the reef system is so densely populated that sessile organisms like coral and sea anemones seem to grow on top of each other as they compete for every square inch of available substrate for a foothold. Once a foothold is established, each type of coral uses its own technique for gathering current-borne plankton, or gathering sunlight, or capturing a shower of nutrients as debris settles from the sea above. Sea fans, which comprise many different species of coral, reach grandly from the reef and orient themselves perpendicular to the flow of current. They filter plankton as water pushes between the unique patterns of branching. Some sea fans form a slight cup to more efficiently direct the flow of water into its inner branches. Other forms of animal also gather plankton in this fashion, sometimes even using the sea fan to reach farther than their own height would allow. These strange-looking creatures are called crinoids and are close cousins to starfish. As night feeders, crinoids are usually found in a dormant state during daylight, with their tentacle-like arms folded to afford minimum drag from currents. Other corals grow across the bottom, forcing weaker species back as they grow. Many of these soft corals rely on sunshine to exist. The coral animal does not need the sun, but a blue-green algae called zooxanthellae, which lives within the flesh of the host coral, would die without the sunlight. The coral and the algae coexist, each sharing nutrients the other needs to survive. The same algae is also found in the mantle of the giant Tridacnea clam. This kind of mollusk grows a shell that reaches in excess of 4 feet. The meat of the giant clam is prized by many cultures, and since a clam weighing several hundred pounds may yield only a few pounds of edible meat, there is great waste in the harvest of this invertebrate. Collecting of this shell by the Palauans, as well as poaching from foreign fishing boats, has depleted its population to a very low level. To combat the loss of this valuable animal, the Micronesian Mariculture Demonstration Center is actively raising giant clams from larvae. When the clams reach maturity, they are planted on the reef. A smaller species of Tridacnea clam lives its life in a burrow within the reef, exposing its brightly colored mantle to the sun and quickly retracting at the first sign of danger. Related to clams, and also found hiding in the reef, is the elusive octopus. When disturbed, the octopus gives off a dense cloud of ink that will confuse the predator as well as hide the octopus and his scent. But for divers, the octopus is an amusing and mysterious creature that delights the imagination. Along the reefs fringing the islands of Palau, tidal currents play a large role in feeding and attracting fish life. During heavy current flow, the plankton-feeding fish swarm throughout the water column, snatching every small bit of organic matter they can rush to intercept. Larger predator fish are also attracted to this feeding frenzy and are ever present as they hang just within the edge of visibility. An interesting exhibit of schooling behavior creates an awesome sight as hundreds of barracuda swim in unison. The barracudas show no concern or interest in divers as they patrol the reef. The most immediate danger to divers is not the shark or the barracuda, but instead a much smaller and seemingly harmless animal, the hydroid. Hydroids, and forms of hydroid like fire coral, possess thousands of stinging cells, which can create a most uncomfortable burn and lingering rash when contact is made with a diver's skin. Not only is the animal life of Palau very diversified, but also the reefs themselves show many forms and shapes. Shallow, calm shoreline reefs can suddenly drop to hundreds or even thousands of feet. One of the small islands is hollow. Beneath the surface we find stalactites suspended from the ceiling of an underwater cavern called Chandelier Cave. Say's Cave is perched on a wall 100 feet beneath the surface. The cave walls are covered with black coral and dozens of species of soft coral and fan coral. Other large areas of the reef are made up of hard corals like table coral that can span a dozen feet. Like condominiums, the hard coral houses and protects the small animals of the reef. When large fish approach these damselfish, they dart in unison into the protective arms of coral. An odd match among the animals of the reef is the clownfish that has adapted itself to living among the tentacles of the sea anemones. Sea anemones carry stinging cells within its tentacles, which it uses to stun and capture small fish. But the clownfish has adapted an immunity to the sting and lives safely in close unison with the anemone. In the calmest waters we find soft corals that come in a myriad of pastel colors and fluffy shapes. Fish are plentiful in Palau, and our guide Surangel is a deadly shot with his spear gun. After our exciting dive, we break for lunch on one of the most beautiful islands under the sun. Nemelis Island is a vision of paradise. The Palauan government has built a small picnic area complete with running water trapped from the rain. Sam and Benito prepare a meal, short on looks, but great on taste. As the days roll by, we realize our time draws short and we must soon return to the real world of tall buildings and traffic. But for now, we sit back and look on all the beauty Palau has to offer us.